This is a 1954 Gottlieb Jockey Club. It's a woodrail pinball machine. It has numerous ways to score replays, and it also has the rare double award feature. Gottlieb allowed you to insert an extra nickel in order to double the amount of all of the replay awards that you could win. They discontinued it a couple years later, probably because it was perceived as a gambling device. But before we get into the scoring, I'm going to show you the back box and what's going on inside of the head of the machine. Here we are in the back box behind the machine, and you'll understand why I'm showing you this in just a few moments. But there's not a ton of complexity back here. We have the credit unit that's counting the number of replays. We have a couple of relays in here. We've got a couple of 3-inch bells. We have a 5-inch bell as well, and 3 stepper units. So we have our 10,000 point stepper, which is a continuous stepper. It'll go around and around. Eventually those will add on to the 100,000 unit stepper here, which will count us through the various 100,000 points in the back box. And you'll see that it has some high score adjustment plugs. And then we also have a ones unit up here. This counts actually twos on this machine. And it also has its own set of high score adjustment jacks. And you'll see how that plays into the number of replays that this machine will pay out. Here's the back glass of the machine. You can see our 100,000s being counted here. Eventually that translates into millions, which appear in the horseshoe. You can also see that we've lit 14 points. So the infield carries all of the ones units, the points. It just does it by 2, so 12, 14, 16, 18, so on and so forth. And then around the track, there are horses depicted. Each one increments the 10,000 point unit, so we're at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and so on and so forth. As they cross that finish line, this will increment up. So your horses will play into the total score that you have. But not so for the infield. The infield is a separate scoring mechanism. So we had high score jacks in the back, and we could set, let's say, give away a free game at 3 million points. There was a separate set of jacks where we can say at, let's say, 58, 60, 62 points, give away a game on the infield as well. And so now we have to look at the play field and see how all of that scores. So this is where things get exciting, because there's just so many ways to win on this machine. You can play it like a traditional pinball game and go for high score. You have a variety of targets on the field that you can shoot for that will add to your points in 10,000, 100,000 increments. So I can shoot around, hit some of these targets, and drive up that high score, become the high score champion. And then you saw that we have the award plug adjustment jacks in the back, and so we could set it to give me a free game at 4 million or 5 million, 6 million, whatever interval we want. There's also the infield, and as you remember, that counts by twos, and so these pop bumpers normally are worth 10,000 points each. But when we roll over this target, they're going to light, and now they're worth 2 points each. It's a little counterintuitive because the scoring goes down, but my ability to win a replay, I now have 2 ways to win. So when I roll over this, these are now lit, and they're worth 2 points. And I can continue racking those up to, say, 58, 60, 62 to win the replays that way. If I roll over the red rollover button, then those go back to their normal scoring. So that's 2 ways. You'll notice that there are numbered passive bumpers all the way around, and so just like any other wood rail, the object of those is to knock them out in order. So you'll see if I hit 2, it's worth 10,000 points, and it stays lit, but if I hit 1, the light turns out. And if I hit 2 next, the light turns out. And so I can continue on. If I skip any of those, nothing happens. But as I hit them in order, I'm unlighting each of those. And once I unlight them, the specials light. And so now I have lights back here that are lit for special. And there's also ones here as well. And so you can see that I've got one lit. I hit this, we'll hear the knock. There's a free game. We see that this one's lit. I hit it. There's another replay, and so on and so forth. So that's another way in which I can rack up the replays and win free games. I can increase the scoring on everything by going through the 2 outlanes. You see that each of these is worth 500,000 each. And if I do that, now all of my numbered bumpers are worth 10 times their normal value. So that's a great way to rack things up. So if I drain down the bottom, I can still make that worth my while. So if I nudge it and drain cleverly, I can increase my chances of going for that high score. But the other way to drain is obviously these 5 gobble holes here. And so they're worth 500,000 each. And they're each named after a famous horse. So we've got Seabiscuit here. And there's a couple of ways to win replays here as well. It's kind of like a roll down game. So if I can get a ball in each of these gobble holes, I'll light that field. And so I get a replay for lighting all of the ones in purple. But you can also see I've got field and ran, but I have win, place, and show. So if I can get Seabiscuit to show come in 3rd place by getting 3 balls in there, I'm going to win a replay. There was our knock. If I can get 4 balls in there, he comes in 2nd. He places, and I get a couple of replays. There's 2. And then if I win, I can get, I think it's either 3 or 5. Let's see. Oh, I've maxed out my my credit unit, unfortunately. So that's as many replays as I'll win. I'll reset that back, but I can fill these in. And so as I'm playing the game using the upper flippers and the lower flippers, once one falls into there, I can start sort of planning my roll down game. So I can get my replays by either getting 1 in each or targeting the one that I already have in there to try and get that to show, place, or win. So that's an awful lot of ways that you can win at this game. And they're all in play all at the same time. And so as you're playing, your strategy might change. You might begin by saying, I'm going to try and unlight all of the lights. And so you try and get that initial plunge to bounce and hit this one so that you're on your way to knocking those out. But along the way, if you drain in here, now you start thinking, well, maybe I should start shooting for Seabiscuit. And so I might use this flipper and this flipper to try and get that ball inside of there. Once these turn on, then you're thinking, well, I want to keep the ball alive. So I'm using the upper flippers to keep it in the upper area to try and rack up as many of those 2 points as I can so I can reach the replay that way. And then, of course, there's the double award. So if I put in 2 nickels instead of 1 nickel at the start of the game, I can double those winnings. So the special is no longer 1, it's worth 2. Placing, which was worth 2 in a normal scenario, is now doubled. I can win 4 replays. And so there's a lot of ways to win. And then just think of all of the other fun interactions. I imagine back in the day, there were a lot of side bets that were laid down on the glass. As somebody said, you know, I'm going to pick this horse, or I'm going to bet against you that you can't do this or that. And so I imagine that in addition to just the gambling aspects of the game itself and maybe trading in your replays for cash at the bar, that there were side bets going on with people watching you play and maybe betting on the horses or your own ability to get a high score and so on and so forth. So a really delightful, fun game. You'd think that you'd win all the time on it. With all of those ways to win, it's still very stingy. You still have to work very hard. But because of the inherent nudgeability of a wood rail, it turns into a lot of fun. So let's maybe put it together and see if we can play a game to show it in action. Now I have the back box open, the playfield glass off, so it's going to be a little bit noisy. You're going to hear some of the solenoids chattering as I get this thing started. So I apologize for the noise and the volume of the bells. next game.